What is going on, everybody? So for all my iPhone SE users out there, I have some very good news. I found that the battery life on the iPhone SE is probably the best in terms of the regular versions of iPhones. I think it's the best right now versus the iPhone 6, the 6S, the 5S obviously, and the iPhone 7. I don't know about the Plus variants yet, but man, this phone is crazy. So I did a test yesterday and the day before, once iOS 12 came out, about the battery life and everything. And I started doing battery comparisons. And I literally just started on my second channel. So if you want to see a more thorough test of the battery life and all that stuff, you can go subscribe to my second channel, Alpaca. Link is in the description. So pretty much for my tests, what I do is I leave the screen on. I charge the phone up to 100%. I leave the screen on and I see how long it takes for it to die. And then after that, I go on YouTube and then I see how long it takes to die on the YouTube app. Like I just play a video for like 10 hours or something and just see how long it lasts. Now this phone I did buy brand new and everything, but I've had it for like a year now. Surprisingly, the battery hasn't deteriorated yet. But since Apple added the screen time widget and the screen time setting in the settings panel, we can now have a better thorough way of testing the battery instead of just kind of assuming or filming it or something like that. And what I found was that on iOS 12, the battery life on standby, if you just left the screen on and everything, is about 6 hours and 48 minutes. So it'll last about 6 hours and 40 minutes with the screen on before it dies. And that's assuming if you have 100% battery life. And that's very, very good, okay? That's the best I tested on all my iPhones. And you have to remember, this is the cheapest iPhone you could still technically get at Apple Store. It's technically, you can't get it anymore, but you could have, and it's the budget entry-level model of the iPhone. It's pretty crazy that this phone is getting better battery life than all those other phones too. So then what I did is I went ahead and tested it on YouTube and everything, and I found that I got about 5 hours and 36 minutes on low power mode, and I tested them all with low power mode, so it's not like all of them weren't testing with it. On my later tests, I'm going to do them without low power mode and with low power mode, see what the difference is there. So like I said, keep it locked down on the second channel. I'll upload those videos whenever. But I found this so crazy. So that was that, right? So about 5.5 hours. And so the phone that this closely resembles the most with is the iPhone 6S. I believe the iPhone 6S has a bigger battery than the iPhone SE. Now on my iPhone 6S, it's a little hard to see, but this is what the screen time I had basically when the screen was just on regular mode, not low power mode. And same thing with the iPhone SE. And I had about 4 hours and about 4.5 hours. I don't count this. That's not technically what it was. It started right here and went all the way here. So I had about 4.5 hours, about 4 hours and 20 minutes before the iPhone 6S died on screen mode. And again, like I said, the iPhone SE had about 6 hours and 48 minutes, so about 2 more hours than this. And then I went ahead and tested it with the YouTube. And I found that with low power mode on YouTube, I had about 3 hours and 49 minutes. So about another extra 2 hours. So about 2 hours more battery life on the iPhone SE than on the iPhone 6S. But the only caveat with this specific phone is that it does have a little bit of degraded battery. So if I go in the battery mode, I go into battery health, you can see I have about 81%. So technically the iPhone SE has 100%. The iPhone SE has 81%. So, I mean, even if you added 20 extra percent battery life on the iPhone 6S, the iPhone SE still beats it. But one phone that I do have that I did test the battery life with too was the iPhone 7. And technically speaking, the iPhone 7 has a bigger battery than the iPhone 6S and the iPhone SE as well. And if you go into the settings panel, you go into battery, and click battery health, you can see that I am on still a 100% on this iPhone 7. Alright, I turned the ISO down because it's really bright. And then I went ahead and tested the battery, as you guys saw. And if you saw my video on my second channel, you would have already seen that I already tested the iPhone 7 on it. And what I found was that on standby time, I got about 4 hours and 40 minutes on the iPhone 7 just being standby. So that's actually, I think that's even lower than what the iPhone 6S had. And that was literally just with the screen on. I was not on low power mode, so it was just stock, like if you were just whatever. Same thing with the iPhone SE, like I said. And then what I found was that when I was using YouTube and with the low power mode and everything with the screen on, I had about 3 hours and 48 minutes of usage with YouTube on it. It was actually about 3 hours and 47 minutes, as you can see from the screenshot. I had about 3 hours and 47 minutes, but it's the same thing, whatever. So with that being said, the iPhone 7, even on 100% battery, is still not as capable as the iPhone SE. The iPhone 7 actually has a bigger battery than the iPhone SE, but the only thing I could probably say is, okay, the iPhone 7 has a bigger screen, a high resolution screen, kind of a little bit better chipset and all that stuff. But what is the excuse here with the iPhone 6S and the iPhone SE? Because technically speaking, the iPhone 6S is the more expensive counterpart than the iPhone SE, and so is the iPhone 7. But how do these phones not necessarily have the same battery life as the budget iPhone? and the entry level model. It's just kind of crazy. And I put a lot of thought into it, and it was just basically because the iPhone SE is the greatest phone in the world. No, I'm just joking. It's basically because the iPhone SE, it's not necessarily underpowered, but because it has the lower resolution screen and because it doesn't necessarily have the the A12 Fusion chip or something. I guess that's kind of one part it has going for it. It doesn't have Force Touch. It doesn't have Touch ID 2. I'm assuming that takes up some battery. But still, it's kind of strange. You would assume that the iPhone 7, which honestly at the same time, the iPhone SE, iPhone 6s, and iPhone 7 were all being sold at the Apple Store at the same time. So would that not necessarily mean you're spending more for even less in terms of battery life? I know the iPhone 7 is clocked higher and has more specs and all that stuff. But I mean, I kind of allude that same thing and same thinking with the iPhone 10 and 10s and 10s Max. You're kind of spending more for, it's an improvement in one case, but it's not an improvement in the same way. And I think that's the same thing upgrading from an iPhone 10 to a 10s, because you're kind of giving up some battery life when you're doing that. I know Apple said you're gaining more battery, this and that, but Apple kind of said the same thing when you go from an iPhone 6s to an iPhone 7. And so if you have an iPhone SE, I would really recommend you guys to update to iOS 12. If you have seen my video where I talked a little bit further about this, you can go check it out. I'll try to link it in the description. I don't know if I will or not, but in that video, I basically talk about the update and everything. And really, if you're on iOS 11, I didn't really find battery life too horrible on like iOS 11.4.1, but it definitely is an upgrade. Not only are you getting better battery life like you saw, but you're getting more performance increases. It's crazy because you're getting even better performance than on iOS 11, and it's just like a better package overall. So it makes no sense to stay on iOS 11 unless you really wanted a jailbreak or you wanted something along those lines. But for a majority of people, you're going to find better battery life on the iPhone SE running iOS 12 than on iOS 11. And I know I said in a couple of videos, I was like, oh, battery life hasn't increased a lot. I guess that's kind of on a per phone basis, because on the iPhone SE it did increase, but on the iPhone 7 and 6s I found it to be kind of the same. I never had a horrible battery life on all these phones because I don't use them like as my daily drivers. On the iPhone 6 I did find something crazy, but I will talk about that on my second channel video. So make sure you guys go not only subscribe to this channel, but subscribe to that channel as well. And if you guys are in the mix of you don't know whether to update or not, I've made videos of pretty much every single iPhone on iOS 12, so you guys can go back on my channel and look at those. But in terms of battery life, man, I find it pretty crazy that the iPhone SE is up to par with more expensive phones that were sold for even more than what the iPhone SE was selling for when it was still sold in the Apple Store. So crazy stuff. I can't wait to test it thoroughly. Like I said, I'm going to do more battery tests and everything. So if this kind of, pertains to you and you kind of like it, go subscribe to Lo-Fi Alpaca. The link to that is in the description. But if you guys have any questions or anything like that, leave it down in the comment section below. I will try my best to look at it. I'm not going to guarantee I'll look at it, but I'll try my best to. Definitely hit the like button if you enjoyed it, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber we get really does count. So it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. Like I said, my second channel. Can you guys count how many times I said second channel in this video? Also check out my Twitter, my Instagram. That'll mean so much. Flawlessphone.com, greatest website in the world. Make sure you guys check that out too. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out to them.